It's happened. It's finally happened. The Nintendo Switch can shut up shop and retire as it's completed its life's purpose. A portable console where you can play Final Fantasy 1 through 12 on your lunch break, on a flight, on the toilet, or all three at once if you're living life really large. Now, I've talked about most Final Fantasy games on the Switch on this channel, so I might as well just do all of this. The motherload, Final Fantasy 1-6 Pixel Remaster. Obviously, I'm not going into too much depth about each and every game in the series because that would take about, 9 hours. If you want that, you should check out my other channel, A Bit More Jordan, for a lot more me. I did a 3-hour scripted retrospective of Skies of Arcadia, Suikoden 2, amongst other great videos. I'm pretty sure I'll get to Final Fantasy someday, and if you like JRPGs, you will love A Bit More Jordan. I promise. Now, my personal experience with these older Final Fantasy titles weren't from their original systems because Europe was not loved by Square back in the day. I actually played the majority of this package on my PlayStation 1, except for 3, which never released on that, and 5, which I mostly played on my Dreamcast. Yeah, that's not a lie, I genuinely had a weird Super Nintendo disc that played on my Dreamcast. It was witchcraft to a 10-year-old. There was like 100 games on there, and I pretty much only played Final Fantasy V, the fan translation of the time, which was better than most of the official ones. Alright, so this package has a lot to dig into. Firstly, any prejudices from the PC release should be thrown out of the window, or at least left neatly in the hallway, because this console release has addressed many of the original complaints when it came on Steam. So let's kick the elephant out of the room because it's taking up way too much space. Firstly, the font. The font has been changed to a more traditional style. It does not look massively out of place anymore. The weird default font that had zero consideration put into it is still there, but you can change it in the options. Of course, anyone in their right mind would choose the Pixel one. I know a lot of people who are refusing to buy the game solely down to the font. And I'm generally not one to throw the baby out with the bathwater because, well, child abuse, but I get it. It was ungodly horrendous. Talk about failing to set the mood, like me on Valentine's Day when I get my wife to change the oil in the car. It's worth a purchase just to reward Square for not being stubborn with this. Usually they love their awful fonts and refuse to budge on the matter, but they listened here. If I'm being nitpicky, it still looks a bit like a kid wearing his dad's clothes. I think the widescreen ratio took quite a bit of the snugness away from it. The font feels smaller than it should do. There's like too much space to fill and not enough fontage to do it, but that's a minor point, I got over it. Secondly, the music. If you weren't aware, these remasters got music rearranged. Orchestrated music supervised by the man, the myth, the legend, Nobuo Uematsu. And they are generally excellent, but I can understand why some people thought it maybe didn't match the mood of the visuals, or maybe lacked some of the nuance of the classic style. So in this version, you can switch between the original soundtrack and the newly arranged one. Either way, this is some of the best music in the history of the medium. I could talk all day long about my favorite music tracks from this series, but they are an essential listen. And thankfully, you can listen to them. You can listen to both versions of the soundtrack in the gallery menu. So now my biggest dilemma in my supposedly privileged life is which game do I use for my background music while writing? These Pixel remasters for the full soundtrack, or Theatre Rhythm Final Barline for the variety? What a life choice. Who knew having music players as standard would make life more difficult for me? There are also some battle assists. You can auto battle if you want, and I think a lot of people will take advantage of the experience booster. You can up the amount of experience you get in battles, which can solve any difficulty spikes that these games can throw at you from time to time. There is no need to grind too much anymore if you don't fancy that challenge, or don't fancy playing overly tactically. Or you can also, you want to play hard mode, you can turn off random battles and then get your ass kicked by the boss. It's up to you, play how you want. But yeah, if you're playing like Final Fantasy 3 for example, just crank up that experience boost just a little bit for your own sanity. Sadly, there is no battle speed up, which is unusual. That's often the bare minimum these days. But I assume if you're buying these 6 classic JRPGs, your day-to-day life isn't exactly packed with things to do. Yeah, if you're a busy fella, you're probably not going to be buying these full stop. I understand. A nice touch is the autosave feature. I always forget to save in these types of games. I don't know how many hours of my life I've lost due to not saving, but thankfully, if you balls up here, you can reload from the last entrance you went through. And there's a map. Lovely. So, Square seem to have stamped out most of the complaints, but of course, that only means people need to find other complaints, so if you're needing a different excuse not to part with your money, you can tell yourself these are not truly the definitive editions of the game, because, well, there is no definitive edition anymore, since none of these games are carrying any of the bonus material that was added into some later releases like Endgame Dungeons or the After Years thing for 4. These are only the original games, just better looking and sounding. Considering the original versions are what's important to me, and not some quick add-on bonus dungeon to help boost marketing for a port, it doesn't really matter that much to me. I've never really been a post-game dungeon kind of guy. I'm usually a, oh my god, there's so many more JRPGs to play kind of guy. So it doesn't bother me, maybe it'll bother some out there, but I don't think it's a big deal. The games themselves, well, they're brilliant. 1 will be a massive trip down memory lane for those NES gamers. 2 will probably be the least interesting one of the whole package, even though this is where Chocobos originated. 3 will be a nice treat. It was always the mysterious one, and this is the first time we've had the original version of it translated to English officially, and this is where we're introduced to job changes, which has become a staple of the series. 4, 5, and 6 are where things really get good. For me, 4 is when they started to take the narrative more seriously, and this is often like a left field choice for people's favorite in the series. 5 is my favorite game in this retro package, because I'm weird, and also it has a purple-haired pirate lady. The story is a bit of a downgrade, it's more simple a game, but the job classes and the characters are some of my favorites in the entire series. Now 6, obviously the crowning jewel, and widely considered to be the best game in the entire series by many fans, and even those for whom it isn't, they'll often doff their cap at anyone who says it's theirs. They will respect the choice. Not when I say my favorite is 7, then you all become big meanies. And I can see why 6 is respected so much. It's a perfect game almost. Well, okay, it doesn't have a purple-haired tomboy pirate lady, but 99% perfect. All 6 games play the best they've ever been thanks to these ports, and it's wonderful to play them again. It's making me massively nostalgic for my almost teenage years when I discovered this treasure trove of releases on the PS1. Being a huge fan of Final Fantasy VII, Triple Triad, and 9, booting these PS1 discs up on my PS2, it was amazing. It was eye-opening for me. And I hope other people, younger souls out there, can get that same amount of amazement with these as I did with those PS1 discs. Maybe in this internet age it's difficult to get that wonderment anymore, I don't know. It's these games that sent me over the edge from being a fan of the series to being a Final Fantasy nerd. You can buy the bundle of the games digitally for 65 quid in the UK, 75 bucks in the US, and actually Japan has the bundle for like pretty much $70 on the eShop. Since when did Japan start getting the cheaper stuff? Now you can buy them individually, which I'm sure more than a few of you will, take up that option, grab 4 and 6, but just get them all of them. But for me, the physical release is the way to go. Now, Square Enix kind of messed this up. It was only available physically on their web store in Western regions, and it sold out within minutes, when everyone was asleep. And people have been angry ever since. People have been put on a waiting list, or, you're going to be waiting a lot. But may I suggest to you to go with the Asian version? No faffing about, no worry, just bosh, you get your order. It might work out cheaper too. Although it sold so much, there's a small wait for more stock to arrive. If you want to purchase this version physically and you want to support us at the same time, then check the links in the description and the pinned comment. That's where you can find it, and you can order it for yourself on a cartridge to keep nice and forever. You can also get 5% off if you click our link and use the code SWTV23. That's SWTV23. And that code is good until June. If you're watching this in the future, subscribe and watch my weekly physicals video every Monday for the latest code update. And it's also free shipping over $100. Just gotta mention that. Is it worth the bundle price? I mean, it's hard to say. I think if this bundle released like 10 years ago, there's no way it would be this price, not even taking into account inflation or whatever. But when you get in 6 classic games, some better than others for sure, it's actually not all that bad, all things considering. There's quality of life updates. It's perhaps the best way to play these games in the modern era. Sadly, the extra dungeons or scenarios that may have popped up in other releases aren't here. These are all based on the original versions. Slightly disappointing, but you know, you can't have everything in life. Put that Twitter post down! When it comes to older re-releases like this, in order to see its worth, I have to ask myself, what's to stop people from just booting up an emulator of the original? Will they get the same experience? Well, the answer for this package is no. These pixel remasters offer many great advantages and differences to make these definitely worth a purchase if you fancy playing them for the first time. You can't do this stuff with an emulator, at least not without faffing about, and I am not a fan of faff. Overall, as I'm starting to do with these old ass ports, I'm giving 2 scores, one for the original game, or games, and one for the package slash port slash cash grab effort. And I'm happy to say it's positive on both fronts. The games themselves, well, you know, it has Final Fantasy 4, 5, and 6. Obviously, a 10 out of 10 for JRPG fans. Why are you even asking the goddamn question? 3 classics in 1, plus an official translation of the OG3. That's very welcome too. As a port or like remake, it is also very good. The issues they've addressed from the PC release has massively shot this up. I would say this is a 9 out of 10 for the port. Obviously, some more things could have been done, but I'm very happy overall. And if you're going to play these games today, this is the best way to do so. Thanks for watching. If you like JRPGs and you like people talking about them for hours on end, check out my other channel, A Bit More Jordan, for a lot more me. If you want to purchase Pixel Remaster physically, check out the links below. That helps support us a lot. And we also have some great things here with like digital bargains and even weekly Switch physical releases. Perfect for collectors out there. I'll see you over there.